She definitely feels not full of herself in a showy manner, but, I've earned my street cred. I know how good I am, and I've heard enough about you to know that I'm probably better than you, that kind of thing. But it comes off, because of the actress's portrayal, as being a little bit charming. Some could say off-putting, but I found it a little bit charming. And I just thought that was, something notable to mention. Although I should point out my favorite incarnation of Romana is probably the second incarnation, as portrayed by Lalla Ward, again with the Fourth Doctor. And, from all of the stories that I've seen her in, and there have only been like 3 or 4, I saw her debut story, which was Destiny of the Daleks, and there's, of course, the notable scene where she is... at the very beginning of, I believe, probably the first episode, she's seemingly changing regenerations or changing her appearance, and I understand that this comes into a lot of conflict with, Whovians as to, was she regenerating? Was she merely projecting regenerations? It's one of those things that's rife for debate. But what I love about the second Romana is her bubbly nature. Yes, she's a time lady. Yes, she's on par with the Doctor, but I love her sort of bubbly quirkiness that very much stands toe-to-toe with the Doctor, especially the Doctor as portrayed by Tom Baker, who I like is referred to as sort of being a bohemian traveler. Definitely keeps him on his toes. But moving on from there, I'm probably going to skip the remaining companions for the Fourth Doctor beyond Romana, as well as for the Fifth Doctor, just because so far that I've seen of them, I haven't been all that impressed. But I'm going to skip ahead to one of the final companions for the Fifth Doctor and a mainstay companion for the Sixth, and that would be Peri. Perpetulium Brown, I believe, is her full name, and thankfully the Doctor found need to nickname her Peri, making it much easier on all of us who get tongue-tied. Her relationship with the Doctor is one of those things that it's just strange to see. There's not a great deal of rapport between them. There's definitely a more sort of odd couple-esque, disagreeing or not seeing eye to eye, or being sort of pithy about being in each other's companionship, and or company rather. And it's just very odd because we're kind of we've become used to the idea that whoever's traveling with the Doctor wants to be there, and surely Peri does want to go on these adventures, but the Sixth Doctor, in his earliest adventures with her, it seems like he's really trying to find who he is, and he's having a hard time of it, and takes a lot out on his companion Peri, because probably she's the only one there. If there was no one there, I'm sure the TARDIS itself would get the brunt of his verbal attacks and things like that. But when we come to Trial of a Time Lord, there's definitely more of a rapport between them, and a almost sort of, we're family, a familiarity, if you will, between them, which is, of course, because they basically are phasing Peri out at that point. It's unfortunate that it took the final episodes featuring the Sixth Doctor to get that familiarity between them. But this ushers us into the Seventh Doctor era, and there was a companion between Peri and the one I'm going to reference now, which is Ace, which is... the reasons I love Ace is because she is definitely a ticking time bomb. She's tomboyish, and she comes from a not-too-distant future Earth, I believe, and I just think it's incredible that here she is. She's sort of, I don't remember if she was like, in a gang or one of these types, but sort of get that impression of her, that she's a rebellious youth, And when I say rebellious, I'm talking about the kind of rebellious. She walks around with TNT in her backpack. This is, she's definitely in the position where she could definitely gain some more knowledge about the way things work in the world. And running away from problems or blowing problems up is not the way to solve them. And the Doctor sees this in her, and, the Seventh Doctor sort of takes her under his wing for that reason, I believe. And the notable thing I'd like to mention with her comes from the episode Ghostlight, or rather Serial, if you want to say, where he, spoiler alert, unwittingly brings her to something from her childhood, this house that she believed was haunted and was terrified of. I think the house burnt down because of her actions there as a child. And so he brings her to this house at many years earlier, when there is definitely, to his sense, something afoul going on. And the reaction she has when she finally figures this out is very dramatic, because, of course, this is something that scarred her since her youth. And but it, even though it's a very confusing story, apparently for a lot of people, I kind of got what they were basically saying. So I understood the overarching basis of the story, and basically the thing with Ace in it is the catharsis of realizing that her fears in youth weren't necessarily all they were cracked up to be. There was a lot more to it, and she found a little more confidence in herself as a result. Moving on from the Seventh to the Eighth Doctor's companion, he basically kind of sort of has two in his one and only on-screen adventure, the 1996 TV movie, sometimes referred to as The Enemy Within, which is Grace Holloway. One of the key moments that I'd like to reference here comes very early in the movie, where she is at an opera, and this is just after the Seventh Doctor's been, seemingly fatally shot and rushed to the hospital, and Grace is called out of the opera, and there's this great dramatic slow motion scene where she's running still in her opera gown in the hospital, and trying to get there because she has a patient she has to save. And of course, through the story she has a lot to take in when the Doctor reveals who he is after the regeneration to the Eighth incarnation, and rises to the challenge in the brief amount of time she has to step on par with the Doctor. And I always thought that was cool. So moving on from the Eighth to the Ninth Doctor, his first companion that we meet is Rose, and I instantly fell in love with Billie Piper's portrayal of Rose, and definitely crushed on her many times over. And I'll skip them all to the climactic Doomsday episode when she has her tearful goodbye with the 10th Doctor. But between that span, focusing more on some of the companions that show up in that series, we have the debut of Captain Jack Harkness, who, as portrayed by John Barrowman, is just totally awesome. This guy is definitely a kick-ass dude. We have the sort of on-again, off-again boyfriend Mickey of Rose, and he definitely has a lack of confidence, and the Doctor sort of, pinpoints this in his interactions with him. But this, I believe, prompts him to become more later on, as the Ninth Doctor regenerates into the 10th, and we see more of Mickey later on. Also, Rose's deceased, and then back again, thanks to an alternate universe, Father Pete Tyler, as well as her somewhat off-the-wall, and forgive the language here, but somewhat horny Mother Jackie, definitely trying to get her groove on in more ways than one. And, not having too great a relationship with the Ninth Doctor, having definitely more of a rapport with the 10th. Ushering in the 10th Doctor era, though, once Rose and effectively Jack and Mickey and Pete and Jackie all go by the wayside, we are debuted to new companion Martha Jones. And while this is not one that I had a crush on, I was more into her sister on the show, I did very much like the character and the intelligence and, all the medical knowledge that was exhibited on and off in brief snippets. But definitely, once again, an exuberant companion. The most notable thing for me is when, of course, she meets William Shakespeare, and he, rambles off this little soliloquy for her, of course, that we all, even having vague knowledge of who Shakespeare is and some of his works, will immediately recognize. And the idea that, is this something he comes off the top of his head with because he's in the presence of Martha, or perhaps is it his customary pickup line? That I always thought was very humorous. Moving on from there, before we get to the next mainstay companion, comes a one-shot in a special episode called Voyage of the Damned, in the form of Astrid Peth, as portrayed by Kylie Minogue. Without giving too much away with what happens to her, shall we say, she's a character that's living somewhat of a hard life, and, she has dreams of starlight, and by the end of the episode, that is the limit of her existence, we'll say. Sticking with the 10th Doctor, but moving on after Martha parts ways with the Doctor, comes a reintroduction of his companion Donna Noble, and once again, one of my most favorite moments comes from Partners in Crime. The little miming scene, when they can't speak to each other, but they can see each other, and how it interrupts the ill doings of the bad lady of the episode. It's just very funny. Unlike with Rose and where there was somewhat romance, Martha, there was definitely unrequited love. And with Donna, it's again more an odd couple thing, but a charming odd couple thing. Donna is a self-confident woman, and she's found herself, and she's accepted herself, and she has that confidence. She stands toe-to-toe with the Doctor, and she's not afraid to, tell him off, essentially. But it comes off in a very humorous, quirky way. And that's one of the reasons why her character is endearing and makes it that much harder with her eventual fate, which I won't spoil here. Although I do want to just mention a notable pseudo-companion, while Donna was still around, from the Doctor's daughter, is Jenny, his, daughter. Genetically created, I guess. I don't remember the technical term for, what they called it, but essentially the Doctor puts his hand in a machine, and they process his, blood type or whatever it is, or DNA, and create this woman who is essentially the Doctor's daughter, and played, very, very beautifully, and very, there's a spunky nature. Notable is that the actress Georgia Moffat, I believe, no relation to Stephen Moffat, the showrunner, but very interestingly enough, she is the daughter of the actor who played the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison. And so that, I thought that's one of those cool little trivia things that I always dig hearing stuff like that. But once she's gone, we slip into the Doctor Who specials, which build up to David Tennant's eventual leaving Doctor Who. We have in the next Doctor Jackson Lake, and when we first meet Jackson, we are definitely ushered into the idea that he is to be a future regeneration of the Doctor. It's just really cool to see the interaction between him, again I forget the actor's name, but with David Tennant, and they're playing off each other, and the 10th Doctor's reluctance to burst the bubble that, you might not be the Doctor after all.